The UiPath Action Center is used to handle actionable items such as approval flows. It supports long-running unattended flows, and we'll click Manage Packages. Today we'll design a flow centered around the Action Center. And the first thing we'll do is to find a form.activities. We will let an employee put in his or her holiday request, and that is used in a form, so we'll install this. Then this forms go to a manager, so we'll find a form activity library. This manager can approve or escalate this holiday request. So we'll also install this. This flow can take a long time, because imagine that the request is sent for holidays and then the manager might not see it or he's away. Then we will need to add the persistence package to support a long-running flow. So we'll install that as well. We have 3 packages. We'll click Save. That will install them. Then you'll also need to go to Project down here. Click this little arrow up here and make sure that supports persistence is ticked to yes. Then we'll click OK. Now we can start building. So I go to Activities and then I'll find a Create Form. This is where our employee puts in his or her vacation data. So drag in the Create Form. First we'll go to Properties. So make sure this is marked that is blue. That is when you drag it in. Then you go to Properties over here. Click these 3 dots and we'll create the arguments. The arguments of this form is data that comes in and out. We will not have any data flowing in since this is the first action, but we'll have data going out and the user will fill in his or her name. So this will be an outgoing argument of this form, and we'll map it to a variable in our flow. So press Ctrl K and call it, for example, name. Then we will have a out requested days. And here we will say out as well, and Ctrl K requested days. As you might can see, we have 2 arrows over here. They will disappear when I click OK. When I click back in, they have disappeared. Fine. The reason why we do this, and then we'll click the Open Form Designer, that is because now UiPath Form Designer automatically created these 2 fields for us. And by the way, you should check this UiPath Form Designer out in general. It's very nice. Let's first create a header. So we take the label header. We will drag it in here. I will choose the size header high, and then we'll fill in something like holiday request. Then we can click Save. Now I want to name this a little bit better than out name. This is named after our argument. So I'll delete this one here. So it only is called name. Then the field key, you can see that is mapped into the out name. That was fine. Similarly, we do that in out requested days. So I'll delete this and I'll have a little bit space in between and I'll click Save. This is my form. I'm satisfied with it, so I can just click Save and it got saved successfully. Then I can click Close. You can actually try to run it. If I click Debug up here, that will open up the form. Of course, not much will happen. I can put in Anders, request 5 days, and my form will disappear in space because we have no more actions. So let's create an action for the manager as well. Go down to Activities, choose the Get Form task. That one will create it for the manager. So we'll go here. Task title, that could be please approve the holiday request. The priority, that is medium. We can also choose to have it low, we can have it high or critical. For now, medium is fine. Here we can choose to specify a task catalog. That is if we want to categorize this task, so that is just sort of a label. Go into days off maybe. in quotation marks, and since it's a string, and here it's important that we take this name with us or simply just remember what we just wrote. That's also an option. Then we go to actions because we'll need to create the catalog here in the actions admin settings. Go to the folder that you want to use, add new catalog, up here in catalog name, Control V, days off, then click create. We have created our catalog. We go back to Studio. Now we can create the arguments for this form. And here we have the two arguments, that is the name and requested days from up here. We have those ones as incoming arguments. And then we have an outgoing argument called approved days. That is because the manager can say, well, the employee requested 5 days, but I can only give him 2. So I can either click these 3 dots, go to properties, and click the 3 dots here. The first one that came in, that was the in name. It went in the direction in. Similarly, we have the in underscore requested days, also an ingoing argument. Control space over here, they requested days. Then we had the outgoing argument called out approved days. That is the out. So that is this form designer, the employee types in the name and requested days. It goes into here, and the manager will send out approved days and will present that to the user. So over here, Control K, approved days like this. We'll click OK, and here we have the error again. That will disappear when we click OK. You can open up and inspect it. Now we can open up the form designer. And again, we have this created for us. You can see that these two are grayed out and this one is white. That is because here we can type something in. These two are disabled. That is just presented data to the manager. Again, click this little wheel and let's just make it a bit nicer to look at. Let's also have a space here. Finally, down here, we'll say approve days. We'll click save. Here we have a submit button, and let that be the approve button. So I click this wheel again. The label will be approve. The action will be of the type submit. And here you can see the field key. We will change that to approve. We will use this in the task action later on. And now we click save. Let's also add in another button. The manager can choose to escalate this to a director if he or she doesn't know what to do. So here I'll say send to director. The field key, let me just give this a capital because I like it. Doesn't really matter. Now we have 2 buttons and 2 task actions we will use later on. So I can click preview again or just click save and we can close it. Now we need to assign the task to a specific user because if we don't do it, we will have to do it manually in the automation cloud. Before we do that, we will just save all this data into task object. So Control K, and then you can just say task object like this and click enter. Now all this information is stored in the task object. We'll use that in a little while. So now find and assign tasks and drag it in. Here we'll create a list. And since this is a single item, we will have an item in between that add this item to this list down here, so we can assign it. For now, go here, press Control K, and then you'll say task, user assignments. Now we have created a list. If you go down to variables, you'll see it here. It is a list of task user assignment, and we'll also need to initialize it over here in default. Here you'll say new list parentheses off, and then you'll say task user assignment. Make sure you pick the one below here, this one here. Now we have initialized it. So we take this list and assigning it to a user. We We just need to have this item into a list in between here. So we will find an append item to collection and drag it in here. So here, let me just go into this collection first. Control space, that will be the task user assignments. That will be our list. We'll also have it down here in the output. So I'll say task user assignments here. Then we will choose what item we need to add to it. So click these arrows here and we'll go up here. Here we'll say new, then a space, and we'll pick the task user assignment like this. Say a parentheses, and this one is taking two arguments. We'll have the task ID, and that one comes up from this task object that we just created. So we can just say task, and then we'll say object, and then we'll say .id like this. Then we'll have a comma, and in quotation marks we'll either have our username or our email from Orchestrator, that the user that we want to use from there. I'll use my own, which is anders@andersjensen.org. I'll click save. Now we have assigned the task. Then we can just lean back and wait for the task to be answered up from the automation cloud, because we sent it to the manager. We assigned it to a user in the automation cloud. Let's lean back. So we'll say wait for a form task, and then we'll resume. So this can take a long time, or it can take very quickly. We will grab the task object, and we've created that one before. That is the information about this one here. And then we will also have it in the output. So find it here. The task action, we will create that. And that is the output we took from this submit button. So press Control K, and then you'll say task action. And so we are waiting for this response, because the manager can either pick one of these twos. We also have the outgoing argument called approved days. So we have we have the approved days, and then we have the task actions. Now we can say we are waiting for it, and now it came back here because now we are resuming. Then we can have an if asking if it was approved or if it was sent to the director. And again, those ones, let me just open up the form designer. Those one came from here. If I click this wheel, this field key, we have the approve here. And similarly, we have the send to, let me just click it here, send to director. So yeah, that's fine. We'll go down here. So we can have a switch, or we can have the simple one that was an if. If we only have two, we could choose that now. But let's say we had more task actions, then we would have the switch, because an if could only store two different branches, or we could create a nested if, but that is a mess. So we want to evaluate on the task action. And here I want to say task action. Then I also need to change the type argument over here in properties to a string. Now we can add the cases. The first one, that was approved. Then we want something to happen. We want something different to happen when it's sent to director. Let's just have a message box that tell the user something. I'll find a message box here and drag it in. First, let's fill out the easy one. That is when it sends to the director, then there'll be a delay in reply. So here I'll say hello, space, plus, and then the user's name, or the employee's name, plus, quotation marks, and a dot. You will get an answer in 5 days, like this. And then we can have another message box up here. That is when it is approved. It can be a partial approved, because the manager can say, well, you requested 5 days, I can only give you 2. So here again, in quotation marks, we'll say hello, plus, then the name. And here, let me just move this a bit. We'll have a plus, quotation marks, and we'll have a dot. Here we can say you requested and then we'll have how many days the user requested, like this, plus, and we'll have a quotation marks, and then we'll say you got, and then we can say how many days that got approved. So that will be the approved days, plus, and days approved for your holiday, and then a dot. So now we created the two message boxes. We can try to run the flow and then see it works. It will work when you press debug, and this is actually not designed for intended use. It's okay for now when we just debug, but when we want to send it in production, we will say it should run in an unattended way. So my name is Jensen, and let's just be bold and request 1,000 days off. I'll click submit. Then this one goes into a suspended state until we click resume. Now we're waiting for a response. So if I go to my automation cloud, again, I go into actions. It can look like this when you log in at cloud.uipath.com. We go to actions, then we can go to inbox. We have nothing in unassigned, and that's because we assigned it to a user. When I go to pending, you can see here we have please approve the holiday request, and it is medium in urgency. Then we have the label, we have the catalog here with days off, and now we can choose to do something. Oh, the manager says, well, Anders Jensen wants 1,000 days. Well, what should we give him? I'll be kind and give him 1 day off. Then I can click approve. Now we will complete it, and you can find it over here in completed. So now we will go back to our studio, click resume, and then you can see here, hello Anders, you requested 1,000, you got 1 days approved for your holiday. A bummer. And similarly, you can try to have the manager send it to director. You will have the other message box popping up. And of course, this is not very cool because now we need to run it in debug each time and the point goes away. This should of course run unattended. So what we will do here is that we will publish it to Orchestrator. And let me just maximize this. So we will hit publish. You can call it Action Center Demo, that's fine. We will just go with the default. We'll click next. That is also fine. I'll click next and then I'll click publish. So now we're publishing it into Orchestrator, and we are going to the Orchestrator here. Then I go into my folder. I have it in my Anders Jensen org. I go into processes and make sure that you have set up your Orchestrator for unattended use. There's a guide up here in the right corner. So then I'll add my process. I go to the add process and I go in here. Pick the name that you just chose. Mine one was Action Center Demo. I'll just click next. You can see here we use a catalog called Days Off, and that is available. Then I can click next. I'll leave this blank. It will just be called Action Center Demo. I'll click create. Let me just close it here. Now my process can be run unattended. We can schedule it or we can just run it directly from Orchestrator. So if I start here, you can see if I click start, the flow will run in a few seconds. There you go. We have our holiday request. And let me just have another name. Let me have my wife. She also works in my company. She is more polite. She will just request 10 days. Then we'll click submit. Now this will go into the suspended state again, and nothing will happen on the user's computer. So, and you don't have to have Studio open, by the way. This will work if you have the assistant installed over here. So what we will do now is to go to actions. We will go to inbox. Then we'll go to pending. And here we can see that Stine requested 10. Of course, Stine will have 10 days approved. We will click approve and then we'll click complete. In a few seconds, and now this will load. This will take a little while. Now the action completed. And we will have a message box on our computer. Hello Stine, you requested 10, you got 10 days approved for your holiday. You also need to watch this video lesson here on the screen to become an advanced UiPath RPA developer.